Hello there folks, welcome to the first vinyl CD update for 2023. Outside it is a pretty good winter day. It is actually a few degrees warm. So let's do some showing of what I have found since the beginning of December, when I did my last one. Some of these you might have seen me show at various streams, for those of you who have seen me there. But I haven't shown them in any video, with exception from a few that I will return to later on. But let's start with the CD format. I haven't found hardly any kind of full-length CDs, but a couple of CD singles I have found. CD singles with dance music from the late 90s, and we're talking Euro trance, vocal trance style, stuff that I like very, very much. And many of you may or not have heard most of these artists, but I show them in kind of rapid tempo. We have from Belgium, Sash, or as the frontman's real name is, Sasha Leppesen, with the song Stay, a pretty good hit in 1997 here. And the same year, he also, during the summer, had a good hit with the song Ecuador, together with Rodriguez. So this is Summer Nostalgia for me, deluxe. From around the same time, exactly the same year to be honest, is BBE with the song Flash, another really nice Eurotrance classic. We have Italian Cappella, mostly famous for Eurodisco music earlier, around 93-94. In 1996 the career was pretty much winding downhill, but I managed to find a pretty good later single by them from 1996, Be My Baby. Red 5 is pretty much forgotten group today. This is I Love You Stop, which were their biggest or maybe only hit that they had. But it's a really, really nice Eurotrance techno. And German Scooter, a band that does some really, really great stuff at times, and at times also they also do pretty bad stuff. So it is a little lottery of how good the song will be every time they release something new. But The Age of Love is actually a really good song. They had a pretty good 97, to be honest. So some 90s to start off. We have some vinyl singles, not many though. This is Pepe Leinauer Band with Swiss Lady. This is the Swiss entry to the Eurovision Song Contest in 1977. And as I collect Eurovision tracks from the past, it was very good to find. A real classic now, Rubettes, Sugar Baby Love, from 1974. On the B-side, You Could Have Told Me. Actually, maybe a little overplayed, but still I like this one. Really nice production. Then we come to some records that I have shown, though in not any vinyl CD update, but I'm going to take them pretty fast. It's the records that I found when I was in our neighbor community, TIMRÅ. I did a video from there, and I showed these records there. But for those of you who missed that video, where the hell have you been? But I will show them right now also. We have Earth, Wind and Fire, and from All and All we have Magic Mind and Love's Holiday. And we have also Alan O'Day, pretty forgotten artist in the singer-songwriter style, Soldier of Fortune, and Angie's Baby. We also have 3 jazz albums. We have an artist that keeps coming back every month, it feels like. Duke Ellington. This time it is the Brunswick Sessions. Brunswick, the record label that he was releasing records on from these years, 32 to 35. Volume 1. So it is a really, really nice early Ellington style. We have Coleman Hawkins Memorial, really nice quality, and we have some tracks that some of these I didn't have actually, and it isn't featured on from what I understand on this 10 CD boxes that you see up there. So these are really nice for this small band swing and big band swing, because some of it with this orchestra also. We have Bix Beiderbecke, Bix and his gang. Bix Beiderbecke, legendary cornet trumpet player that played in the crisscross between the old, really old vintage jazz style and swing style. These are recordings from the 20th, 27th and 28th. It says complete recordings of Bix and his gang, and I can say right now that it isn't. But it's fun to have anyway. I have records with Bix Beiderbecke, but not that much with Bix and his gang. And this also Swedish troubadour balladeer, Cornelis Vreeswijk, and Turistens Klagan, the complaint of the tourist, from 1978, yes, this is an issue from 81. So, those you have seen now twice, or once if you only seen this and not the TIMRÅ video. Now, let's go to the newer stuff. We have here Lou Rawls, Sit Down and Talk to Me. We're talking about a record released on Philadelphia. So this is very, very interesting. Lou Rawls is also a kind of an artist that, like Barry White, he has a very, very recognizable voice, and that at times some of his songs tends to some of his songs tends to sound a little bit alike, but when it comes to Lou Rawls, in opposite of Barry White, Lou Rawls have production and composers from Philly, which makes the melodies a whole lot better actually than Barry White's. More soul or pop soul. This is an album that I'm not going to say it's perfect. It has some songs that I'm a little bit either fed up with, or that I think is this artist maybe the weakest songs actually. But I felt like it was an album that I needed to have. Michael Jackson's Bad, because Michael Jackson is no doubt a great artist, and though Bad is pretty much overplayed, Another Part of Me and Dirty Diana is definitely not his strongest songs. It still is a really, really great, has some really great albums, but it's produced by Quincy Jones, of course. This is a little oddity that I bought. I bought it because I thought it would be as stupid as it was funny. My fascination of cult albums. But it wasn't all that bad as I thought, actually. This is Mickey Mouse and Goofy Gympa med Musse Pig, which has a better title in its original. It's called Mousercise in original. Here is called Training with Mickey Mouse. And it is with Swedish voiceovers, but this is actually pretty good made, even with Swedish voiceovers. Really great fun melodies, fun melodies for a Walt Disney fan like me. But it is actually really good. It also comes with a book sheet with training program. This is interesting. Beagle Boys is here, even though Beagle Boys at that time, 1984, hadn't been on any kind of a moving format, audio or video, only on magazines. And Donald Duck's duck dance looks a little bit familiar, like ripped right off the bird dance. But it's really, really fun to have, and it will keep a say in the collection, even though it was better than I would expect that it was. The soundtrack from the movie Cat People, music by George Moroder, but most famous for the David Bowie theme, the title track. But I'm not going to say that David Bowie version is bad, but it's definitely not the best he has done in the 80s or in his career. But from what I've heard, these instrumental tracks by George Moroder were pretty good actually, so I thought, why not? We going to soul again, and an artist that I had really no idea who it was. It was part of almost blind buy. This is I Can Make It Alone by Laura Lee. And the reason I bought it is that it's produced by Holland Dozier Holland, so it definitely should have the possibility of being something really, really great, smooth or funky. And we have, I think they are British, but this is for once new wave synth pop. Not often I found stuff like that these days that I don't have. But this is Fox the Fox, and they're famous for the song Precious Little Diamond, a song that a little bit tired of. Not as huge, great song that it should be. But I listened to tracks of the other stuff on the album, and it sounds really, really good, well-sounding 80s new wave synth disco style. So this album, In the Dark of the Night by Fox the Fox, is going to be very, very interesting. It's from 1984. We have an Hall & Oates, Beauty on a Back Street from 1977. We have also an album that I got money in Christmas present from my parents to buy something for. And so this is more or less a Christmas present. This is an album that was on my wish list. It is British House from the late 80s, Cold Cut and What's the Noise, containing People Hold On by Will Lisa Stansfield, containing Stop This Crazy Thing, Junior Reid, Doctor in the House, featuring jazz, some really, really great experimental dance house stuff. It's very, very interesting. We have Katrina and the Waves, Break of Hearts. Katrina and the Waves is a band that have done some great singles, but as for albums, they haven't lasted that good in a big album formats. But some of the stuff that I've heard from this album from 1989, when the band switched the label to SBK and turned into a much more rockier than what they were in the previous album. Some of the stuff here, Rock and Roll Girl, That's the Way, and To Have and to Hold, it was really, really good. So this might have potential to be the best album I've ever heard with Katrina and the Waves. It'll be interesting to see if it actually is. We have a motion picture score, another one, with a name that may be some of you backing away maybe. You see here it says Bill Cosby here. This is a motion picture score from the movie Man and a Boy. But don't worry, Bill Cosby he is only been heard in one song where they sampled from the movie, sound bit from the movie. Otherwise, this is music by Quincy Jones and J.J. Johnson, which was, of course, the main reason why I bought it. Soundtrack with Quincy Jones is always interesting. So, Bill Cosby or not, this is definitely very, very interesting. And only for $1 also. We have a name that I never thought that I would see in my collection, but I've heard some 80s songs with this artist that I thought was maybe the best I've ever heard with this person. And I'm talking about Carlos Santana and Santana. I'm not that huge fan of Santana's earlier, more famous 70s stuff, but there are songs here on this, definitely I think most commercial album by him. Of course, when I like something that everybody else like, it is the album that the normal fans of this artist dislike, because this is synthesizers, it is more of a soul disco tempo, so it's definitely not the Santana that Santana collectors actually like, but I like it. It is a really, really good album, filled with great sounding 80s disco soul, and the song Say It Again that I have been hearing before that was actually really, really good. So this is by far the best I heard by Santana. It will stay in the collection. If it will be my only Santana, I don't know. Time will tell. We have a jazz album that I was really happy to find. Last time in my December, in my previous vinyl CD update in December, I showed Roy Eldridge and French Cooking that he made in France when he stayed in Europe after his European tour with Benny Goodman Band 1950. But between those sessions that he made in France, he also traveled to Sweden to do some recordings with Swedish musicians. And it became this album, Roy's Got Rhythm, featuring Roy Eldridge. And we have some really interesting names here. Ove Lind, clarinetist. And we also have Charles Norman, or Charlie Norman as he became famous as, playing piano and harpsichord, which is a pretty unusual instrument for jazz. Artie Shaw and the Gramercy Five had harpsichord, but otherwise I haven't heard that much with harpsichord as a jazz instrument. But if French Cooking, his French recordings at the same time were more of a real jazz party groove. This is smooth, this is mostly a little bit more swinging, normal swing style. So it is a little fun to have both this and French Cooking, as it is recorded pretty much at the same time, but so different in style. But this is really, really, really great. So I keep finding these really great Roy Eldridge albums. I don't know what it is. And finally, an artist that I'm no huge fan of normally, but has done also some great stuff. I'm talking about Diana Ross and Touch Me in the Morning, 1973 or 4, 1973. Diana Ross, more famous stuff, those from the 80s, with some exceptions, even live is good, but most from the 80s were, she has a voice that I don't like that much. And of course, he also had Nile Rodgers production that I didn't like those albums one bit. The Supremes, the most famous Supremes recordings, Stop in the Name of Love and so, are little overplayed by far, a little too catchy also. But they were a period between 68 and the mid 70s, the crisscross between her last albums with Supremes and first solo albums that actually were among the best she has done. And this, even though it's maybe a little too much ballads, I was hoping for a little faster tracks. This is actually a really good album by Diana Ross, especially is one of the best versions of Imagine, John Lennon's Imagine, that I've heard. And this medley, normally medleys are pretty much fillers, but this medley with Baby Brown and Marvin Gaye's Save the Children is actually really, really great. And produced by Berry Gordy also. So this is really, really nice. Some early 70s Motown release. So that was Vinyl CD Update, the first for this year, and the 31st Totals and my reboot. So let's see what the rest of the year, the coming month, will bring. So until next time, I hope that every one of you had a really nice time, no matter where you are, no matter what you do. Take care and so long.